Welcome, viewer, to Keep Evolving, episode 14. We are glad you have been watching and you're working with us. This is a platform that will enable family conversations because our desire is that families will thrive even during this season. So, your host today is Jackie Wegoki, and with me is a special guest, Betty Aguko. Welcome, Betty. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Benjamin Gishohi, welcome, Benjamin.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure to have you too. Joanne Wangeshi, welcome, Joanne.
Thank you.
And Wendy Akinyi.
Thank you so much.
Lovely. Today, viewer, we want to discuss forgiveness. Yes, forgiveness, a sensitive topic. Let's hear what will come out of this as we continue to encourage one another that it's a season to forgive one another and to seek forgiveness. So welcome everyone. And as we start our conversation, I'll start with you, Betty. Now that you're our guest today in this platform, is what is forgiveness in your view, and how would this apply in terms of families? Because Keep Evolving is really table conversations for families.
Thank you, Jackie. I want to say that I actually checked out some few definitions about forgiveness, and in a simple way, there are about 4 which I took. One says it is to excuse, another says it is to pardon, another says it is no longer blame, and to end being angry with somebody who did a wrong thing to you. So I took the 4 because I think they kind of simplifies forgiveness. Thank you.
Wow, Betty. Excuse someone, no blame. Well, pardon. We'll be getting there to hear more. Exactly how do we apply this? Because sometimes, saying it is a little bit easier. Beja, what do you think? Forgiveness. And what is your view generally about forgiveness?
Generally, my view comes from the last point she said, to end being angry about a wrong someone did.
Okay.
And I think from the definition she's giving, I am feeling that I have been so narrow-minded about forgiveness. Just stopping being angry about the wrong someone did to me. Wow, this is Keep Evolving. You know? So for me, that is the perspective I've had. Like, you wronged me. I can now say, I want to forgive you, so I stop being angry and I let it go. And for me, excuse has not been one of the things, like to excuse someone. Wow, that is also forgiveness. So I'm learning also on set. But for me, that is the focus. That is the place I've been coming from, to just, end the anger and be free of the anger. That for me has been forgiveness.
And possibly even for me, that has been more of it. So we are evolving by learning, because you can see there's that emphasis from what Betty said, that no blame. It means no blame once you have forgiven. I mean, it's expected that you're not blaming. Joanne, you look like you want to say something.
I think I'm stuck on the not blaming part. Because I think sometimes we forgive, but then once in a while you'll hear me saying, lakini ule mtu sijui alifanya nini, like if it was not for this person, I'd have probably been in a better place. People who have gone through things in the past, they'll keep going back and being like, if it wasn't the way that person did ABCD, I'd probably be in a better place. If this person did, if they didn't do. So I think the not blaming part is like, it's a very important part of the whole forgiving aspect, because it doesn't make sense if you forgive but you still blame this person for all the other things that fall through.
So it's a great insight for all of us this morning. Wendy, what do you think? How would we handle forgiveness? And this time, let's think of forgiveness in terms of self and others. Maybe again we can plug in terms of what's your view about that. How would you handle forgiving self? Because there are 2 aspects of forgiveness. There's forgiving the other person and there's forgiving self. And like we've seen, there are times we also forgive ourselves, but the blame, we keep blaming ourselves. What would you say?
Well, forgiveness is a very, it's a it's a huge topic, I'll say. Because first, it is said that before you can even forgive somebody else who you feel has wronged you, there has to be forgiveness of self. And forgiveness of self, for me, is the most difficult part of forgiveness anyone could ever do. Because you will always blame yourself. When somebody has done something that gets to you, you'll keep asking, what did I do? Why did I get myself into a situation where I was vulnerable enough to be hurt by this person? But how we can go about it is that it takes time. We have to realize that it's not something that happens today and then tomorrow we are done. That's when you find people have not moved on from things. They tend to cover them up with many other things. And after a while, you hear somebody is having anxiety, somebody is depressed, somebody is having panic attacks because it has not been dealt with. It's a process. I call forgiveness a healing, like a let go process. It's not like you just drop the ball today and it's done.
Okay.
It's like a rolling. You have to roll it away. It's a process. So first you have to start by forgiving yourself. But before even that, you have to start by realizing.
That's where I was coming to.
Yourself. The realization has to hit you first. Then you have to go into forgiving yourself. Then it is only after you forgive self that you can be able to forgive somebody else. And you also have to realize you forgiving somebody is not for their good, it is for your good.
Let me come back to that point where you're saying the realization. And I think unless you're very intentional has been a common term here.
Yep.
And for sure, you will not realize that, for example, a conflict between me and you is actually affecting me as much, especially when I'm thinking that the other person is to blame.
Yes.
Unless I come back silently in that stillness and realize it's actually hurting me as much or even more. And that is where we are told, when you're saying, let's forgive ourselves before we even go and forgive others.
Yeah.
Betty, you'd like to add something on that?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Wendy that forgiveness is not an event. It's a process. Okay, it can be an event because there may be a day you decide.
Yes.
But then there's a process of, how to overcome it. And about forgiving myself, there's a quote, I don't know who quoted it, but I know it's common when we are discussing about forgiveness.
Yeah.
That I'm looking at a family setup at home. And so I have beef with people around and they don't know. And so it's like I have drunk the poison, but I expect the other person to feel the effect of the poison to harm the other person. It won't happen. It will harm me instead. And so I need to deal with myself so that I don't drink this poison. And I also save the others from drinking this poison so that we are all healthy in the house. So I need to deal with myself so that I'm able to deal with others before after I've dealt with myself.
Thank you. Beja, you look like you want to say something.
I'm just learn. The moment you get to learn, that is it's a common phrase, but sometimes you hear things that you've had and they hit differently. Which is awesome. Like you drank poison, and I am waiting for Wendy to drop dead because I drank the poison. It is unfair, first of all, to the person who holds the anger, who holds the unforgiveness. It is unfair because you curtail a relationship or you impair a relationship that otherwise would be flourishing. So you killed it, and as much as there is maybe blame that can be apportioned to the other person, you are now stopping, you're stopping the flow. There's a verse, there's a place in Ezekiel that talks about swamps. So you're basically cutting off the flow out of a swamp. And when a swamp is not drained, it continues to just become not fresh. So if the flow is maintained, then you have a situation where if I am able to keep talking, if I forgive, if I let go, and if I start with myself, if I notice or if I am aware, if my intention is to always be aware within the family setup, within a corporate setup, out in the village, if my intention is to always be aware of where it is my fault that a relationship is not progressing, then I can be able to take the action necessary to keep that relationship moving. then when I focus inside, I am able to quickly open up the gates. And freshness always flows within me. And I think this is something we can borrow from. I was just reading, as Betty was talking, from Galatians 5:1. It's a verse I love. It says, "Stand therefore in the liberty by which Christ has made us free, and do not be entangled again with the yoke of bondage." And at that point, that is why I said it hit differently, because at that point I just realized, wait a minute. If I am the one who drank the poison, and I'm waiting for you all to drop, but I keep drinking this poison, and you see, this is the problem. You guys are not dropping, so I'm like, I didn't do enough. So add some more, and then wait on you guys. Mbona hawa watu hawaanguki? Like, why is someone not falling? And I'm the one who is drinking. 3 weeks later, I'm like, no.
And they are not aware.
Yes, you see, that's the problem. I'm not opening the gate so that Wendy can come and tell me, you know what? This was actually not right. Or this, I feel that this could have been handled better. When I stop the flow from happening, I am actually now, I begin dying. You know, slowly, it's a slow death, and it can take years to just be realized. And finally, relationships have been hurt. A family has been broken. Corporately, maybe someone has had to quit the job because as this hurt becomes more and more, I start being toxic.
And maybe before I forget, Benja, one of the things that is coming out, I just don't want to forget your point, is that you're bringing out, in this situation, you're saying you're the innocent one, but you're the one who is drinking the poison. So you're saying, unless we are communicating, then I'll continue drinking this poison.
It's about the intention to open up, you know, like the intentionality to say, hey, wait, if I was to apportion blame, ni wewe na wewe, you know, like I am 100% not to blame, you and you, but it is me taking the initiative to say, I'll stay open, you know, I'll remain open, so that in the event that you need a recourse, you know, like you need a channel, it is open. It is our responsibility in this freedom that Paul is talking about, to open the gate for that person who has 100% culpability, or even the portion for blame, to come in back. You know, so you are to blame, yes, but I have opened this doorway for you to come in and say, I am sorry. And then I realized, oh, by the way, I also had a part to play. You are to blame, but I had a part to play. So now the blame is not 100%. Suddenly it's 30%, and I am even carrying some of it. And I think that is where we should, the freedom that forgiveness brings, or that keeping that doorway open.
I hope, dear families, we are taking some notes here and noting that conversations are very, very important. And yes, when things do not go well, you also have a part to play. It's not fully that it's the other person. Humble yourself and please ask for that forgiveness. And again, we are saying, stop keeping quiet. Stop refusing to talk to each other. It's a season to say, I am humble enough to seek forgiveness. I am humble enough to forgive. Otherwise, if we don't communicate, yes, we shall stay. I don't know what to say, but it breaks relationship, as Benjamin has said. It has a big impact. Sometimes it takes even years to realize the impact of that gap. So let's keep watching. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back, viewer. You are watching Keep Evolving, episode 14, and we are discussing a sensitive topic on forgiveness. So keep watching. Now, before we left, we were talking about what it means, what are the results of unforgiveness. Some of it was mentioned that if you don't keep talking in our homes, yes, the gap will keep rising and relationships will be at stake. We want to look at some of these practical reasons why we need to forgive. And possibly I'll start by asking Joanne, are there times when forgiveness is difficult and times when it doesn't make sense?
Well, there are. there are instances when, honestly, as born again as you are, there are days when you're just like, no, I can't. Like, there are times when it's difficult because either the hurt is too much, or the person who's wronged you is someone that you trusted, or, you know, like there are scenarios where honestly it's not, I'll just say it's not always the first resolution that comes to your head. It's not, there are days when it is, but there are days when it's not the first thing that will come to your head in a situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you say when the heart is too much, I want to throw this to Betty, because I know here we have Betty and Benjamin who are married. Think about a situation where these are spouses and there is infidelity. And you forgive once, you forgive twice, you forgive thrice, and for sure it continues. I wonder, sometimes those are some of the issues I'm sure women may have shared with you when forgiveness really becomes difficult. What would you say about that, Betty?
The Bible talks about the number of times we need to forgive. And so you'd have done it again and again until it's now normal or a routine, but the person is not stopping.
Yeah.
That's where now you need God to come and deal with you and also deal with the situation, with the person. And I bring God here because God is more powerful than anything. He's far and above over anything. We are all sinners. We were forgiven through the death of Jesus Christ. And the death of Jesus Christ at the cross, before giving up his soul, he said, "It is finished." So even the sin that this person keep committing and committing again and again was also dealt with at the cross. And so I'll believe that what I cannot handle, the power of the cross can handle. But I keep doing it again and again after having dealt with myself, and also believe that God is able to deal with the other person. And then when you totally surrender things to God, believe you me that maybe things will stop working out for him out there. Things is just getting exposed, and maybe things are not working out, and then he may realize, how come my wife is behaving this way and yet she knows? And I believe that will bring a person to a point of melting and just giving up and changing, and because it's not him, it's also God involved in it.
And I think I've heard you say that, though not exactly using your words, that also you who is being hurt need help, and you may need now. These are the situations where you're saying, even as you seek forgiveness of the person, or rather, even as you seek to forgive the person, remember to go for help. Like you can go for counseling if you really need to. And I think you really need to, especially things like those, because you need to also be able to deal with yourself. Beja, you look like you want to contribute.
Oh yes, because now you put us on the spot. So let us take this spotlight. And
Before you take that spotlight,
yes,
that part of things may not work out for him, and you should add him
or her.
or her.
Oh yes,
Right
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because these days it's
Both ways.
okay.
It has always been. I think it's nowadays because there is a lot of what is it called, publicity or information traveling. Now it looks like the other gender has also joined.
Okay.
But I believe it has always been.
All right.
I want to borrow from two experiences. One is a movie. The other one is an encounter I've had with someone this morning.
Yeah.
One, Priscilla Shire and what is that movie?
War Room.
War Room.
Oh, yeah.
Paints exactly what Betty is saying. Like, take your issues first to Jesus. Like when you have a fallback plan, and that fallback plan is the author of relationships, especially marriage.
Wow.
You have the best fallback plan you could ever have. And I like, if you could just watch War Room again and again.
Yes, please.
Especially if you're in a married situation that these things are happening, that the burden to forgive is consistently being thrown at you. And I'll talk about that in a few. So she begins to treat the husband in a way he has never thought she would treat him.
Yeah.
And that brings out that kind of forgiveness that Betty is talking about. Like when you take your issues to Jesus, and I like also the point that you're stressing that there is Jesus, and Priscilla Shah in that movie had someone to talk to. You have someone helping you along, and you're praying about these issues that are happening in your family, and you have the best backup plan you could ever have anywhere. Then this morning someone just reminded me the problem you have, whether it's your child or your spouse, whoever it is within the family setup, if you would, before you tell anyone, tell God first. Like, go to God, and you feel like shouting back at your spouse. Go to God and tell them, I feel like I want to shout at this person. You know, like, my husband has hurt me, or my child is becoming too hard-headed. And you just go like, I feel like I want to shout at them. And the first person you tell is God. The perspective you're standing at to look in becomes something so big. And then my last point on this, if we normalize as married people, if we would normalize having God as the go-to person before the counselor, before your best man or your maid of honor, before your parents, if you would normalize God, and then normalize also keeping the doors open for conversation, I think forgiveness becomes easier. I mentioned the burden to forgive because in matters infidelity, let's go with the stereotype. When you hear a relationship has infidelity, it's the man.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind.
It is on the shoulders of the wife to forgive. And I think society needs to recognize the burden for forgiveness that we put on the faithful spouse. When our husband has cheated, the society looks at especially the wife, like, unajua wanaume, like it's like normalized within society that the man can cheat. But when a woman cheats, society is out here going like, just leave her. Forgiveness is not the first thing. And so we have to normalize seeing the burden to forgive as a real burden. Especially on the shoulders of the spouse who was faithful, of the shoulders of the spouse who didn't go out there. And society just expects them to forgive. Not just society. Even the Bible is saying forgive 70 times so many. So that is a burden that needs sometimes someone else. So within the marriage setup, if you feel that the burden, the expectation is too high for you, go out there and have someone walk with you the journey. Because we can't just normalize like you forgive. I mean, nini mbaya na wewe, wanaume wanakuanga hivyo ama wanawake wa siku hizi wanakuanga hivyo, can you forgive? We can't take that as normal. We need to normalize that place after you've talked to God, just having that responsible person to walk with you the journey of healing.
Thank you, Benja. And you're reminding us that in this journey of forgiveness, there are many things we have to think about the culture we have been brought up in. Sometimes culture gives us the comfort to do what we want. I think that's what you're bringing out, that it's a time to say, I can stand out. I can stand up and say, I don't have to follow the culture if it does not add value to my family, to my spouse, and be different. And you've also brought in the aspect of what would Jesus do in all this? That question, asking yourself first, what would Jesus do if I am the one who is in the midst of all this murkiness of forgiveness and unforgiveness? So thank you for that insight. And I can see Joanne wants to say something.
Yeah, just to add on to something. Something that has really been helpful, at least for me, because as I mentioned earlier, sometimes forgiveness is not the first thing that crosses your mind when you are in a dispute. And one of the things that I always just sit down and think about later is that I was forgiven for all those things I ever did. I was forgiven. That I did, that I am doing, that I will do. I was forgiven. So it makes me feel, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? Because there's a friend of mine who shared a scenario that I found very interesting. he was talking about a situation of infidelity, and he was saying how he used to find it really like bad, like, you know, why would you cheat and everything, until he sat down one day and he just realized, wait, I cheat on God every other day. Every other day I cheat every other day, but what does he do? He always welcomes me. And that changed his whole perspective, not to belittle the situation, but to make it look like, wow, okay, honestly, this is actually what I should be doing. So I found it really interesting to think about it that way.
So you
just to add something, and I'll be very brief.
it's okay.
In all this, I think I also have to be authentic. In that I really mean to help this person, because what is or she is involving himself or herself into is also poisonous. Against himself and even against God. So I need to be authentic that I really desire and I really purpose to help this man from or this the other person, the partner, from what they are doing.
And if I have to help, then I also have to be an example. Yeah, I have to be a great example, like genuine, to be able to do that. Wendy, you're burning. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, Wendy. Yeah.
I just feel so flared up. I don't know why. I'm not married, but the moment you said infidelity, I just felt my heart drop. I felt like a headache start falling. But like, all I can say is, all I can tell people who have been through infidelity, it's okay to feel how you're feeling.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay. That's what I really want to say, because I'm not even married, but I'm feeling
the heaviness.
Angry, I'm feeling. So if I am not even with a partner, I'm imagining somebody who is in that situation, empathizing. And I just want to say it's okay to feel like that. But you're not going to be able to feel like that forever. So that's why we keep saying you have to forgive, you have to run to God, because the Bible allows us to be angry, but you're not supposed to let that anger lead us into sin. Also, I want to address the issue of, there's also infidelity in relationships.
Oh yeah.
And you know, in relationships, people are like, we're not married, so I can leave.
I can do whatever.
But now you're married. You can't just go like, you've been unfaithful, we are divorcing, I'm leaving and I'm moving on to the next person. It does not work like that. So there's so much that I'm just thinking of myself, and honestly I wouldn't know where to start from. And there's a difficult situation of you live with this person. You have to see them every day when they come back from work. And whenever you see their face, it's going to remind you of that very detestable sin that they've done in your eyes. But it's okay to be angry. Feel that. Go through that pain. That's what I really want to see. Just really feel it and just go through it. Don't rush yourself through the pain. Talk. It is going to be so annoying. It is going to be so hard. But you have to talk to that person if you're going to make it work. You have to talk. And talk and talk until, before you even go out to another person, talk and pray and start from within that place, because I have not dealt with you yet. How am I going to ask Benjamin to help me deal with you? And I haven't even started dealing with you. Talk. And also, as a forgiver, I really want to empathize with a forgiver, because sometimes people forgive and it becomes so numbing. To the point, I just forgive because I've become numb to pain. And you're not supposed to become numb to pain. You're a human being.
Thank you, Wendy. You have so much to offer, and thank you. I think you've also brought in the aspect that to realize such situations bring about loss. Like this is a loss of trust. And of course, a bigger impact. If we were discussing infidelity today, there would be so much more to discuss about. But by the way, we are appreciating that forgiveness will mainly come as a result of where there has been a conflict. So we want to say that in any conflicting situation, our plea to our viewer is kindly have a conversation. Sometimes it may not be immediate, like when you talk about now what you are discussing, infidelity, sometimes people are in shock. I mean, they have to go through that grieving process. It takes time, but please be ready for a conversation. At least tell your heart, however how difficult it is, a conversation is very, very important.
Sometimes it's going to have to start with, you're here, I'm here, and we just have a quiet space, even up to an hour, and we go to bed. And once we are both ready, the conversation will just
don't rush.
Initiate it.
Yes.
There has to be, we have to spark it up.
So communication, very, very critical if we are going to embrace forgiveness. Intentionality, very, very critical. But you look like you want to close the session before we go to the season 2 of forgiveness.
And thank you for pointing to season 2, because I think this will just set us up for season 2.
Okay.
I want to read from this scripture. You have heard it a billion times. Every wedding probably has Ephesians 5 from 21. And I want to focus our eyes on these 2 verses. Wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is the head, and it continues and continues. And then in 25 it says, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church. And I want to focus us this way, because season 2 is coming and it will be great. When we are asked to forgive, it is from a place of love. You know, we have to first of all admit. If you do not have someone and they wronged you, you might have no business feeling hurt from them. You know, it is easier to just do away with the hurt from someone you do not love. It is those that we love, that when they hurt us, that we feel all the sorts of things that are making Wendy want to blow up. If then we are coming from the premise of love, submission and love is what we have seen Christ do at the cross. Like, love us so much and accept submission and death, even death on a cross. Paul says in Philippians, even death on a cross, that is submission. So in the case of marriage, you guys, I can't wait for you guys to get here.
Amen.
That you are submitting out of love. Like, Christ first of all looked at all of humanity and said, I want to be the one to do this, and came from a place of love. So as he's submitting, he's not just looking at nitabeba nonsense ya watu wote nipeleke, like, there will be a split between me and the Father, between our fellowship, because of the sin of the world. He comes from, these guys will be forgiven, they will be free of all the burden, and comes into this space. Then the husband, it is also from a place of love. How does Christ love the church? The first thing that Christ did is to love the church. Like, he loves and submits, then he loves and dies for the church. So if it's not without love, if it is devoid of love, you will fail from the very get-go. And I want to just echo that thing of empathizing with the forgiver. And if you could empathize with the situation of Christ, then as we come into the second place of forgiveness, even before we move into the depth of that season 2, season 1 will end at, if you can empathize with the forgiver, and at this point look at Christ, if you can empathize with Christ as the forgiver of our sin, then the burden for you to forgive is easier in whatever other situation.
Thank you, Benja.
One more quote. You're very capable of forgiving. No matter how hard it is, you are capable of doing it.
And Wendy, I know Betty looks like she wants to say something as we come to close. What I want to say is that from this conversation, we can also see the level of humility required to bring about forgiveness. That is both for the person asking and for the person forgiving. We really need to be humble. Ile kujipeleka kwa Mungu, yani totally nyenyekea kabisa. That's the only way we are able to achieve really the goal of forgiveness and be able to do it. Because yes, like we've seen some situations, especially the ones that are hearts of the heart, they can be very difficult to forgive. Betty?
Jackie mentioning the heart, actually that's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
This unforgiveness is, the effects which we didn't talk about, brings about sickness. Whether it is loneliness, abnormality somewhere. And I just wanted to read from Proverbs 17:22 as a prescription or a medication. A merry heart does good like medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones.
Exactly.
So there's medicine right there.
Yeah.
A merry heart. And this can only happen when your heart that heart condition you're talking about is good.
It's free. When your heart is free.
Yeah.
Free.
Forgiveness sets your heart free.
Yeah.
Wow. We are glad you have been watching. Keep evolving. We have been on forgiveness, and we want to continue that even to the next episode. Thank you for watching. Please keep sharing your comments, and we do pray that we will have hearts to forgive each other. And these hearts to forgive one another will require us to be totally humble, to communicate, and to have the love for one another. Because the Bible says, without love, love crowns it all. And let us have the faith, because without faith, it's difficult to please God. So let us purpose to keep our families working together, and let us keep evolving. Thank you. See you next time. And special thanks to ACK, St. Peter's, Kahawa Sukari for giving us this opportunity.
And remember to like, comment, and share this video.
Thank you.